Closhi Chaco, Nika Yule, Saavista, Nika Name, Brenda Brainard, Nika Kopa, Silkus, Quiich, Saishla, Malik Talikam, Ina Talikam. Hello, I just greeted you in my indigenous language. I told you good day. I told you that my tribal name is Shavesta, but my given name is Brenda Brainard. I'm from a tribe they call the Coos, Lower Umpqua and Siuslaw Indians. We are the Aboriginal inhabitants of about 1.65 million acres on the southern Oregon coast. The language I spoke to you in is Millet Coos. That means I'm from the south side of the river. If you've ever been to Charleston, Oregon or Sunset Beach, you have been to village sites of my tribe. And I told you I'm from the Beaver clan. We cannot marry nor date within our own clan. Today I have the opportunity to share a story with you. It's a Haida story called Salmon Boy. But what is the purpose of stories or of storytelling? Is it simply for entertainment? Before we had media like TV and video and internet and even books, stories were the way of educating us. They taught us about natural wonders around us, about science and nature, why animals look the way they do or act the way they do. They taught us how to act, how we should act or not act, and what would happen if we didn't. Storytelling is really important to me because it's a tie to my culture, to my ancestors, and to the land that I grew up on. So this Haida story comes to us from Alaska. Stories are generally into one or two categories, either before humans were on the earth or after humans were on the earth. This story is an after humans on the earth story. One day, a long time ago in his village, there lived a boy who showed no respect for the salmon. The salmon were so important. They meant life to his people. But this boy showed no respect for those animals that his people called the swimmers. His parents told him to show gratitude and to act properly about the swimmers, but he would not. When fishing, he would step on their bodies. He would eat the fish and carelessly throw their bones away into the bushes or onto the ground. Everyone in his village warned him. They said that the salmon spirits would not be pleased and were not happy with the way he was acting. But the boy did not listen. One day his mother served him a meal of some salmon. It was dried salmon. The boy said it was moldy and he was disgusted and he would not eat it. The mother told him even though it was moldy, the meat was good. But the boy simply threw it on the ground and walked away. He went from there down to the river to swim with the other children. However, as he was swimming, a strong current caught him and pulled him far away from the other children. The current was strong. It swept him into deep water, and he could not escape. The boy sank and drowned into the water. There, deep in the river, the Salmon people found him. They took him with them. They were returning to their home without their bodies. They had left their bodies for the human animals, the human people, and the animal people to use as food. The boy went with him, for now he belonged to the Salmon people. When they reached their homes in the ocean, the homes looked very much like the boy's village, and the salmon looked like humans. When he first arrived, he could hear the sounds of children playing in the stream that flowed behind their village home. Now the Salmon people began to teach the boy. They taught him about how life was as a salmon. The boy became hungry. The salmon told him to go to the stream and catch one of the children. It would be there for him to eat. But he was told he had to be respectful of the salmon, and after eating it, he had to return all the bones, plus everything else he did not intend to eat, back to the water. Then he was told that the child would be able to come back to life if he did this. But if the bones or the other pieces were not returned properly to the water, the child could not come back to life. The boy did as he was told, but after he had eaten one day, he came up to the village from the stream and he heard a child crying. The child was limping because his feet were gone. The boy then quickly realized that he had not returned the fins back to the stream. He quickly found the fins and returned him back to the stream, and he noticed that the boy's feet grew and he was healed. After the boy had spent an entire winter with the salmon people, it was again spring and time to return back to the rivers from the ocean. The boy swam with them because now he belonged to the salmon people. As they swam past his own village, his mother caught him in her net. As she pulled him in from the water, she saw that he was shaped like a salmon, but she also saw the copper necklace that he was wearing. It was the same necklace that she had given to him, her own son. She recognized this salmon as her boy. She spoke to him. She spoke to him lovingly. She carried the salmon boy carefully back to her own home. She continued to speak lovingly to him and calmed him and sang to him. Gradually, he began to shed his salmon skin. First, his head emerged out. Then, after 8 days of doing this, all the salmon skin was shed and he was human again. Salmon Boy became important. He taught the people in the village all the things he had learned. He was a healer now. But he told his village family, I cannot stay long. You must remember everything that I have told you. He remained with the human people for some time until the time came when the old salmon that had gone upstream, had not been caught by human people or animal people, came drifting back down toward him. It was the salmon was so worn out and so thin that the boy could see right through his sides. The boy recognized the soul of the old salmon as his own soul, and he thrust a spear right into that fish. When he thrust the spear in, Salmon Boy died. But the people of the village remembered what he had told them about returning everything to the ocean. They carefully carried Salmon Boy out to the water. Salmon Boy then swam in a circle 4 times, and he sank into the ocean and returned back to his life of salmon people. Pretty cool story, huh? Lots of things to learn from that story, not the least of which is returning, your bones to the ocean. That's a huge part of my tribe. When we have a salmon ceremony, we always return the bones so that the salmon can go back and live again and come back again and feed us. It's a huge part of our ceremony. Also, we're supposed to follow rules. Rules are there for a purpose. Rules are there so we have a way, to live and to behave. When Salmon Boy didn't behave, yeah, something bad happened to him. I like this part about the strong currents. We're always taught as children when we grow up on the water about rip tides or undercurrents and how they pull us out away even when we're playing and not paying attention. It was an important way to teach children to watch out for the water. We were told that if we didn't, watch for the undercurrents or the rip tides, we would be pulled away from our family and our friends, just like Salmon Boy. It kind of explains the cycle of salmon, how when they go upriver, the humans catch them and eat them, the bears catch them and eat them, the osprey, the eagle, the otters, everybody's after salmon, and a few get through, but then also a few float back downstream, and they're old and they're dying, and then they aren't as good, to eat. The other thing that's important that I remember is when the food was moldy. Mold might make your food taste funny, but mold doesn't hurt your food. And when you're poor or when your food has been dried and become moldy, you can scrape that mold off and eat your food still. So I always thought that was an important part, that even though, it might not be as appetizing or as edible, the boy was disgusted and threw food away. We grew up pretty close to nature, and we were always taught to never waste any of our food. I think this story is important because it shows the interconnectivity between human and salmon. We as humans need to take care of our salmon. If we don't let enough go upstream and return back to the ocean, there won't be any salmon left for any of us. Thanks for listening to my story.